Hi Capricorn, this is your April 2025 soul story. If you have a sun, rising or moon in the sign, it's your reading. It's Romy. Thanks so much for joining me on the channel. We're going to open up for you this month with the energy of the Page of Coins. I do think you're going to be asking the question, does this still resonate with me? And it will linger all the way through April. You may find that, something that you've made even a significant amount of progress towards, you've invested in, and you're having a moment where you are reconsidering. Maybe you want to take it in a different direction. Maybe there are new feelings that have emerged. Maybe so much has changed in the last few weeks that you owe yourself the opportunity to just stop and maybe take a step back a little bit and really ask those deeper soul-searching questions. Now, that said, it is absolutely not stopping the progress that will be underway for you in the month of April. The third of the month sees Venus conjunct the North Node, and there's something really fated coming in that feels like a very clear, direct sign. And with that, a rising sense of confidence. You are prepared this month to do the work. You're prepared to do what's necessary. Your eyes are wide open, and it feels like when you choose it, it chooses you. So there's that sense of when you just get on a flow and you're in rhythm and in sync. Sometimes we feel like we're really battling against things. That's not the energy that I feel for you in April. Now, it's a very healing time needed after perhaps the tumultuous energy of March, but there's also some friction. So it's not that we get to escape or, we're not continuing to deal with some of the challenges that, have already surfaced for us. But the 4th and the 6th bring about some harmonious days astrologically. And on the 7th, we feel much more clear thinking as Mercury stations direct in Pisces. And it's just a month where everything feels like it's starting to open up a little bit more. Now, even the way that you are responding to the challenges has completely changed. It's completely changed. So yes, there is a lot to do. There might be still a lot coming at you. But as you approach that full moon in Libra, Venus stationing direct, look at you, you're sitting completely at peace. You're holding your own quiet counsel. You're almost just putting your hand up and just going almost like creating that boundary, okay? When you set the limits, you set yourself free. And I think the acknowledgement of your willingness to no longer be highly stressed or depleted or, repetitive in a pattern that sort of moves you out of that groundedness that you've worked hard to cultivate, is everything that you need to see in yourself. Remember, every version of you that you are becoming already exists within you, right? And I feel like, just before I came on to do the filming for you, I was reading that really old quote by Carl Jung that said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. And I felt like it was meant to sort of be included for your reading this month in April, because I just feel like there's a deep willingness on your part to understand who you are, why you do the things that you do, and where some of those sort of almost like unconscious patterns have been shaping so much of your experience. And so you flip things on their head in April, and that begins just with a mental kind of reframe. And an acknowledgement, and that in itself puts you in a place where you're much more relaxed, and then when you're relaxed you're more able to receive. So that full moon in Libra has a lot to offer you in terms of awakened understanding, having peace to be able to finally say, I'm closing this, I'm letting go, I'm moving on. I no longer require to have this energy a part of my pathway, and that again gives you just a chance to switch off. Sometimes when there have been things going on in your world that have kept you in a highly anxious state, and you've just not been able to, try as you might, just stop the thoughts, and really just even give yourself the state of presence for specific priorities that have surfaced. So this is a month when so much of that is changing, right? When you choose, Capricorn, to do what you really want to do, it's a whole different life that starts to open up for you. And I think you've been backwards and forwards and maybe you've been testing that out and trying it, and it's felt so uncomfortable and not like something that, you know, you could really embrace fully. But I think that the universe has sort of directed you to a point where it's almost impossible to not. It's so clearly defined where you're meant to be, what you're meant to be doing, that, you know, you're in a place now where you're sort of prepared to just almost say, you know, I have to follow through. And that's what I see. I have to follow through, which is why if there are things not resonating, they're going to stick out really clearly. Now, remember that full moon does have a Chiron Kazemi, which means that there's going to be a little bit of a trigger point there, you know, so somewhat of a vulnerability, and the Four of Swords may require a little bit of a withdrawal just to process and work through that. And remember, you know, so much of the distress is not caused from feeling the emotions, but from not feeling them. So if something comes up for you, just take the time that you need to really sit and acknowledge and process it and be who you need to be in that moment, because what you might find is that you're seeking some sort of response from someone else and it's not quite arrived yet. Now, I think it will, but I'm not sure it's going to be in the time that you would have really needed it, you know. So if that emotional support, that understanding, that kind of giving you space, time, support, whatever it is, it may feel that it's out of sync, but it does end up showing up. It could just be later in the month. I think once we see Venus Mercury direct, and you know, we just allow some of that to right or to rebalance some of the things that have felt like really in discord. So in the meantime, you need to be whatever it is that you are seeking and your soul is asking for in that moment. Now, I also feel that April is very much a sort of second chance. We're returning to things, but with new understanding, new awareness, a new sense of motivation and passion, and a belief, you know, with a trust in the process and a trust in ourselves. Full energy, beautiful for your first major arcana for April. You're just, you know, embarking upon this new chapter, and there's definitely a part of you that's just like, okay, like, screw it. I'm just gonna do it. I'm just gonna try. I'm just gonna give it my all. And that sort of wild, unbound, almost like cardinal energy that Aries helps bring up and bring out in you, it's going to serve you so well, Capricorn, because I think it's going to help you get out of a rut or shake up some stagnant energy. And if things have felt already super like shaken up, then it helps you to see like how to work with that energy. You're like, okay, well, you know, life happens. So what does that mean? Am I going to sit back and, you know, watch everything that I'd, you know, thought was going to occur and be in place like dissolve? No, I'm just going to make the most of where I'm at and the opportunities that that affords me. So again, this huge mental reframe that I see going on now. You are fourth house energy through Aries season, right? So there's a lot of things happening close to home and bigger questions around your sense of how secure you feel. And if you feel you belong where you are, I think there's a restlessness that's coming in for Capricorn as well. That's kind of like really questioning, do I belong in this job? Do I belong in this home, in this country, in this friendship group, in this family even? Like, so there's those bigger questions that not necessarily are being acted upon straight away, but they're definitely gearing up and preparing for this bigger foundational shift that I think is underway. And in the process of that, as Mercury comes back into Aries on the 15th and Mars shifts into Leo on the 17th, all this fire, you know, is incredibly motivating and does ignite within you something that honestly will carry you forth. You know, it can't be tamed. And it's sort of like once it gets switched on, well, that's it. Now, you may feel you're still in a state of flux, you know, and that's hard, but life is perpetually in a state of flux. It doesn't stop the progress. Hear me when I say that. There, you know, this is all over your reading. Even when there are times to sort of sit back and, you know, to just not allow your energy to be depleted in the wrong ways. Your Three of Coins here is paving the way, paving the path, and actually you're not doing it alone. Even if you have to start or initiate something by yourself, soon others follow. People get on board. People understand and see where you're coming from and get the vision and see the idea or understand the significance or the importance to you, but also the impact for them. So, you know, you might have to be the brave one initially, but actually, you know, you're not going to have to be independent in this path unless you want to. And there's a part of you that just needs that space through the course of April. But I have a feeling as we shift into Taurus energy, there's a desire from your part to kind of look around and go, well, who's with me? You know, who can I count on? Who's showing up? And, you know, how comfortable do I feel with the energies and the connections around me? Because you have reevaluated an awful lot through that Venus retrograde. And remember what I said last month, you know, 8 years ago, similar themes, new choices are now abounding in this direct energy. And what you're going to find is that, you know, you might surprise yourself in terms of the answers that you're coming back with the questions that have been poised and have lingered over the last few months, right? Now, I do want to call out on the 20th, Mars is opposing Pluto. So there's somewhat of a volatile energy, a little bit clash coming through, and that can sometimes create a sort of internal crisis point for us. The give and take is what's being highlighted here, you know, and that might be something that you need to address, and maybe a little bit more directly. Remember what I said, set the limits to set yourself free. So this is about your boundaries, you know, and to what degree you're able to put them in force. Now, you might be seeing things playing out on the collective and be very affected by that, perhaps materially, financially, or in some way about just the setup that you have in place, and you know, potentially around the foundations, you know, in fifth house energy, you know, your relationship, children, you know, all of these things could be sort of under the spotlight. But internally, there will just be that combative clash that sort of forces you to acknowledge something that perhaps you've been maybe slightly avoidant of, not wanted to address, or it hasn't been as clear to you as it will be on that date, and therefore there's now a need to rebalance it, okay? And that comes in supportively, because again, I actually think that the support that shows up for you this month is really powerful and actually quite beautiful. It might really open your eyes a little bit to genuinely how people do see you, especially if that's been in question. You know, if you've wondered if certain relationships have just completely fallen away, or, you know, what happened. And I think there's a resurgence and a reminder that gives you a little bit of validation that actually there's something here that's still super valuable and worth holding on to. Okay, that definitely shows up. And when we make our way towards that new moon in Taurus, really, honestly, the theme for you is relax and receive. You know, this is earth energy. This is your currency. You know, Taurus is saying, like, do the work and then sit back and watch these flowers blossom, you know, but you have to nurture and nourish it. And remember, you are absolutely like the metaphor of the garden that you are trying to create, the garden being anything, the relationship, the you know, the career, the state of abundance. It's like you have to feel nourished and satiated and safe and put yourself in the right conditions, right? And that new moon gives you a reminder, you know, not harshly, but in actually quite a beautiful way. Maybe you'll observe, actually, you know what I really feel is that you're going to observe how someone else has changed their life. You might look at someone that you thought would never change, or was never set to necessarily achieve something that they'd been striving for some time. And, you know, whether that's somebody up close and personal or even more at a distance, as you watch and you see, you know, what took hold and how that's reshaped them and how they're now living something that absolutely lights them up and, you know, brings them that joy, there is this absolute sort of permission that you give yourself to make the commitment. Now, a reminder that the commitment, whatever that commitment is connected to, should feel expansive and spacious and even a little bit exciting. You know, we are not in a time or a place anymore where you are needing to accept or take on agreements and commitments that are restrictive and depleting and create defensiveness in you or resentment in you. Like, it's just not an option. So if that's what's being put on the table, then, you know, I see you walking away, or you know, almost like a stalemate until something is you know, repositioned, shall we say. Now, we do have Juno, asteroid goddess of the 7th house, marriages, partnerships. She's been in Sagittarius, but on the 14th she'll shift into Scorpio in retrograde, okay, until well, the 10th of April she'll move back into Sagittarius, and then the 10th of July she'll go direct. So this is a time where you're going to be renegotiating terms. Now there might be a little bit of envy or jealousy or some triggering that goes on in Scorpio, some things coming to light that maybe someone's tried to hide from you, or some secrets that get exposed, and you know, there's a little bit of a tough sort of deep dive into things, but it's wholly worth it in order to get the right reciprocity and to get the right energy moving forward. Remember, however we embark upon something, whatever we initiate, we want to do it from a place of what the end game is, the vision, and bring the best that we've got. Otherwise that energy is infused in the whole process, right? So keep that in your mind. Venus also shifts into Aries on the 30th. Again, this is a reminder that we're going back to think about the state of things before that retrograde energy. Now we've got our second chances to move forward more purposefully, more clearly, and you know, with a lot more passion and energy and sort of fight. You know, we've got a little bit of fight for it. It's like, this is worth fighting for, you know, whatever that is. So it's a really empowering month if you allow it to be. But remember that quote, it's about making the unconscious conscious, so that you're not on this sort of blind pathway where you're feeling like, you know, you have no control and things are just happening, and you know, it's just like, oh well, this was meant to be, but it doesn't have to be. Like, you can get super clear and intentional through the course of this month, and it's going to be a game changer. Now, if you're new to the channel, the last 3 cards we look at in the extended reading, I talk for another 25 minutes or so, and we're going to explore this a little bit more deeply, as well as a personal card question and a relationship card. So I hope you'll join me. I'm just clarifying to see the direction that we're going to be taking that reading. The old 3 of Swords has shown up a lot this month, and I really feel it's connected into that full moon Libra, but I think it's a positive pain, right? It's a positive, sort of somewhat peaceful pain. Chiron brings it up because it's just like, let's bring it into the light, let's clear it, let's move on. And often old pain surfacing, you know, but there's something deeply cathartic about it. It's wholly necessary. Okay. The decks that I use are always listed below, and if you're new to the channel, or if you're a regular, please check out romywiser.com. You're going to find ways to work with me if you're after a personal reading. I've got a number of different options. You can also find all my sacred titles, so my deck, my journal, my book. These are all things that I create to support you on your spiritual journey. romywiser.com, link is below. Right, we're just going to add the Life Soul Vision Oracle. So this is my deck. I think there's just this steady encouragement that is building and growing with you through the month of April. I really like the feel of it. And again, that question, like, do I resonate with this, is going to help you to make the right decisions at the right times to ensure that that progress and that encouragement and that kind of slow hope that's sort of building deep roots continues, right? I feel April is so important in just giving you the validation that you've been seeking. Right, we're just going to look at a couple more oracles. What do we have for Capricorn? Centaurus, healing. Okay, and then an animal spirit card. Like I said, it's a very healing month, but you know, there's friction still with that healing. But there's also progress. You're not spinning. Oh, beautiful. Elephant energy. Love that. Okay, Capricorn, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you. Please join me on the extended if it's resonating. I'm going to catch you again next time.